Pop Culture Pastor.
All right. Enough of this sounding pretty stuff. We're just going to go.
Yeah, we are.
We're just going to go. Cody, explain to me. You're younger than me.
A little bit.
Can you explain to me what a White Claw is?
A beverage?
Well, I know it's obviously a beverage, but what makes it so special? Because I hear people talk about it, and it's referenced early on in this episode.
It has flavors?
So it's like a wine cooler.
Maybe?
Do they still have those?
Yeah.
That was a very like late 80s thing.
Yeah, I think they're still around.
Okay.
But I think White Claw's like seltzer.
Seltzer, because everyone's drinking the seltzer stuff now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Glad we got that out of the way. There are things that we're out of touch on being ministers, or I'm out of touch on. Cody's in a different denomination that doesn't frown upon the occasional adult beverage.
Yeah.
But mine, they don't frown upon it. They just don't want us having them. I don't know what the difference is, but I'm not mad at it. Let's just say that. I don't really care because I was never a big adult beverage liker.
Yeah. I don't think I need a hard seltzer in my life.
White Claw would like you to know everyone needs a hard seltzer in our lives. Ah, bing! Bring in the advertising dollars. Anyways, this is Pop Culture Pastor Watch-Alongs. We obviously don't care about hard seltzer.
We don't.
And it is time for us to recap and review Season 3, Episode 3 of Shrinking.
Yes. Not to be confused with Severance or some other Apple TV show.
It's so close. Is it even the same amount of letters? Even seems awfully close, and I get them confused a lot. So let's just get into this. D-Day is the name of this episode. Delivery Day is what this whole episode's going to kind of center around. We start off at Jimmy's house.
Also directed by Zach Braff.
Okay.
I brought it in.
Cody had to mention the Zach Braff when necessary. Jimmy's house, we got Jimmy and Alice's friend Summer, and Grandpa, Jeff Daniels.
Yeah.
Showing up.
Love me some Jeff Daniels.
And we start off early on where he says, "Thank you for the Black Hot Cherry White Claw."
They have flavors.
Yeah. Grandpa, as it turns out, as they are sitting around the table rather awkwardly, Grandpa likes cars. Jimmy clearly does not. He's not all that caring about the cars. Or maybe Jimmy just doesn't like his dad, or that he only comes to see him because there's a car show nearby.
Maybe all the above.
We see the huge contrast immediately between the two characters. Jimmy is this super sensitive, empathetic therapist guy, and Dad, well, isn't.
Dad is Tim the Toolman Taylor.
Well, yeah, but even Tim the Toolman seemed like a good family guy.
Tim had to go outside and talk to Wilson before he became a good family guy.
Yeah, right. But he got there.
Jeff Daniels doesn't have a Wilson in his life.
Jimmy excuses himself and Alice to have a chat when Alice brings up graduation. He kind of cuts her off, says, "Can I talk to you in the kitchen?" And he gets her in there and he says, "Listen, I'm glad you guys have a good relationship, but with me, it's a little more complicated." And basically, he's telling her not so fast on the invite to graduation.
I thought that was uncouth of him.
Yeah. Yeah. He reaches a little too far there, which a character points out later. Not to him, but to Alice, which I thought was interesting. But I also identify with him and his dad's relationship. Like, this is wild because so much of it's not a 1-for-1 translation with my dad and me, but my dad loved cars, so I just hated them. I didn't want to have anything to do with them. And for the longest time, my parents were very young when they had me. So anything I say, like, you should take with the listener should take. It's not a critique. It's more of, hey, we're all young and immature until we mature. And some of us, like me included, it takes us well into our adult years. And so, like, I just don't, because I only got to see my dad on every other weekend, and then he's like working on his cars and doing young guy things. Like, we just don't have that kind of relationship. We don't like the same things. And that often caused friction, right?
Yes.
And so this whole first scene, I was like, oh my gosh, is this my life story? What's going on here?
It felt like my family, except I do get along with my dad, but like we're totally opposites. And he is a mechanic, and his dad really loved old vehicles. And so like the family would always go to like car shows and stuff. And so I related to that part. And then I'm a therapist, but no, I have a good relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
So
it makes me think your dad is awesome, because I think it's hard for guys, especially when their sons don't have anything in common with them. I think that's just hard for dudes. Yeah. And so I didn't immediately say, oh, Jeff Daniels is the worst here, but I also understood what was happening like immediately. Like, oh man, they have a tough relationship. That's hard. We go to Brian and Charlie's house where we have Liz. We have the baby mama. I know her name is Ava, but I'm going to keep referring to her as the baby mama because I feel like more people would know who I'm talking about then. And a new nanny by the name of Kelly. Just out of nowhere, we got Liz giving a motivational speech, and this lady standing there, and she's preparing everyone for their birthday roles like a drill sergeant.
Well, someone needed to.
And she says, I want to introduce you to the other nanny that's going to be helping out the other 6 days a week I'm not here. She's quickly dismissed by Liz. Bye, Kelly. She says, okay, you can go. And then Brian says, bye, Kelly. Please don't quit yet.
It would be a bit overwhelming having Liz kind of oversee you.
Yeah, she's been quite cartoonish to start this season. She's towing that caricature line, but I'm here for it.
Well, it's a big moment.
And this scene introduces us to the idea that the guys aren't quite ready. Like they haven't purchased the car seat, which apparently they've been told to. And it gives us a little hint, ever so gently, that baby mama may be having some second thoughts or conflicting thoughts because she has invited her mom to the birth, which she quickly says was declined.
That would be a little bit of a scary proposition for definitely the guys.
Just the fact that she invited her was kind of an uh-oh. You can see it on everyone's face.
Yes.
We go to the food truck, and we got Sean and ex-girlfriend Marisol. And Marisol's weird. Huh? Like, is she weird?
I've known people like this in my life. Mm. They definitely are not amongst the majority, but they're not an outlier either. They either want to make the present moment as happy and as good as it can be, even though the past moments might not have been so great, or they're just overly flirtatious.
Yeah, Marisol talks like they never stopped dating. It's kind of weird, like nothing ever happened. She's talking about a mile per minute on the events of her day, which seems a bit odd for two people who haven't seen each other in years. And Sean, of course, he's in like reconcile mode. So he wants to talk about his past and his behavior. He wants to make amends. And Marisol's just kind of deflecting that. Doesn't want it. And yeah, it's very strange because I feel like the episode plays it like Sean just needs to get over it. And I'm like, are we not going to talk about her behavior? Because it seems odd.
This is definitely a situation of two people at different stages of their lives. And also how things can feel out in the real world after going through therapy. Because not everything's going to work the way it should. Like that whole reconciliation piece of, hey, I'm going to own up to my past mistakes and I'm going to apologize. Not everyone wants to hear that from you, buddy.
Yeah, well, and I think they don't mention it specifically, but I would imagine this is probably pretty familiar territory for, I don't remember if they say Sean was a Marine or if he was Special Forces.
He was in the armed forces for sure.
He saw combat.
Yes.
And I would imagine this is a common thing to come back to this world. And you've grown up a lot kind of in the sense of you've seen things you didn't want to see and lived through things you didn't want to live through. But then you come back to people who are kind of just the same, living the same lives, carefree almost. And that's hard for you to fit back in, I would imagine.
Or are living a completely different life than what you remembered them from in the past.
Yeah, also that. So Jimmy and his dad, as his dad is leaving, we get this little bitty scene with him. And he says, "Good seeing you, Dad. I'll see you again when there's another car show in a 30-mile radius." Then Dad calls him Jimbo again when Jimmy clearly mentioned not liking that.
I would have called him Jimbo, too.
Yeah, well, he clearly doesn't like that, Cody.
Well, tough luck, kid.
And this is just a short scene that is supposed to show us that Dad isn't really present with Jimmy. He likes him enough to show up when he's in the area, but doesn't love him enough to really get to know him and know what he prefers and doesn't prefer.
Or he knows that everything is really awkward. He's trying his best. It just is a mess.
Yes, that's true. I'm not trying to paint it as good guy, bad guy. Clearly, Jimmy is not the easiest person to be in relationship with.
Nope.
So we move on to Jimmy and Gabby and Dr. Paul, and they're on a walk. And Jimmy is venting. Dad never calls me on my birthday. And Paul and Gabby are discussing, after his venting, are discussing the disastrous first client meeting that Gabby had last episode.
Train wreck.
Yeah, to which Dr. Paul says, "Have you considered telling her the truth? That you were mad at Jimmy for being BFFs with the guy who killed your BFF. It can build trust when you discuss your flaws, Cody. That's why Jimmy's patients trust him so much."
So it can, but there is such a thing as oversharing on the half of the provider. Mm-hmm. Some transparency is good, but like too much, and then it becomes a therapy session for you, the therapist, and that's not what it's supposed to be. It's a tough line to navigate there.
I think that's why I appreciate this show quite a bit. Is Jimmy and Gabby especially are not painted out to be perfect therapists.
No.
And Paul is painted out to be the best of them, but still not perfect. He has his faults.
He is the best.
Yeah. Okay. Are you just going to argue with everything I say? Or I'm going to throw something at you?
No, I have said Paul's the best since season 1.
I want to say to Cody what Dr. Paul says. He's basically a walking mistake. And then, of course, Jimmy says, "I'm only hearing the compliment," which good. Jimmy's doing, they're literally like saying all the bad things he does, and he's taking all the compliment parts and forgetting the best, which, you know, honestly, you should go through life like that.
Somewhat, at least.
It's actually pretty healthy. The scene ends with Gabby excusing herself because she has to go meet with Sean for Dr. Paul, who's still not seeing patients. So just a quick beat here at the end to show us that Paul is still not practicing. He's still being forced to go a week without a Hululu.
The Hululus are bad.
And I think even this part early in the show, we're being made to wonder if he ever will. If he ever's going to get back.
I questioned it.
We go Derek, Brian, and baby car seat shopping. That's where we're at. And Derek's talking about his mistakes with his son, Maddie, to Brian. And Brian in caring father practice mode, which I thought was one of the best scenes. I just love anything with Brian and that actor. I think he's hilarious. But he like dismisses him completely. First, he's like, "Wait, I have to practice being a caring father." He's like, "Tell me more about that." How's it going with Maddie? And Derek says Maddie isn't talking to them, but mentions that they know he's with his brother because Liz put a tracker on him. And Brian says, "Like in his clothes?" And Derek says, "Sure. In his clothes." Brian gives a horrified look, which, yes.
Also on par with the character of Liz.
Brian gets a text at this point, and surprise, baby mama's going into labor. This is happening this episode. Early, because Brett Goldstein had to go, so we had to shuffle some things around in the old storyline.
It happens.
And so we're going to do this story now. Brian is a little bummed, though, because this isn't how he imagined how this moment was going to go. Quote, "I thought I'd be at a boozy brunch with my best gays. As I ran out of the pool area, everyone would form two lines like I was a guest on the Jennifer Hudson show," which is exactly how I imagine walking into this studio every time, but it doesn't happen. So he's panicking because it's time to go, but then Derek does something really nice for Brian. And he, being the spontaneous friend he is, organizes a quick Jennifer Hudson show dance line in the baby store.
I am glad that there was at least a couple people that you could tell that they were not wanting to participate in that, and like their faces were like kind of angry and confused. But like a decent chunk of them did participate, and so yeah, I was good with that.
We go to Jimmy and his kitchen in the morning. Listen, I don't think I've ever identified with anything as much as I identified with this scene. Just a little thing. He comes down. We're shown a half-eaten bowl of spaghetti laying out on the counter, presumably all night. And he says, Alice, is this your spaghetti? I thought I told you to clean this up last night. Alice! And then with no answer, he immediately starts digging in and eating it quickly. And that was so real. I just feel so seen.
I don't recommend doing that, kids.
Yeah, it's amazing that I don't get salmonella more often.
I would say it happens to the best of us.
He gets a call from a desperate Brian who's all alone at the hospital with baby mama. Where did Derek go? To go get Liz, I guess? Because Derek was with Brian.
Yeah, Derek had to go get Liz.
Yeah. And he's about to come apart at the seams. Jimmy and Liz depart for the hospital. We're having a baby. If she's crowning, you tell her to clench until I get there, says Liz.
Or Derek had to go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jimmy has to pick up or take
Jimmy
Liz.
and Liz go together. Yeah, so I don't know where Derek went.
Maybe Derek was just busy with life.
Well, or he took Brian to the hospital and was like, I stop at the waiting room, brother. Some people don't want to be in there.
I don't blame him. Also, I'm shocked that they let this many people come on back.
Yeah, that wasn't very realistic. But, it's a TV show. Gabby and Sean are in session. And Gabby, it's almost like mid-thought. Gabby's like, okay, so you're mad at the gorgeous woman with lashes like butterfly wings. Why? And Sean is struggling because he wanted to apologize for being cruel to her, saying cruel things. But he also wanted her to apologize for cheating on him.
Justified.
And Gabby thinks something else is going on. She says, Paul told you about the field, right? He rolls his eyes. I laugh greatly because this has become my favorite thing in the show. For listener purposes, the field, if you don't remember from the last episode, was Paul's way of expressing his belief of a spiritual reality in the world, in the world we live in, that the universe, quote unquote, as Paul would have put it, is constantly nudging you towards who you are meant to be. And Sean says, you mean the magical energy force that sends you everything you need in life? That's just Jesus, right? And she goes, wow, and holds up her hand. And at that point, I had to pause and be like, yeah.
So it's okay when the patient or client names it. You kind of have to tiptoe in as a provider unless you know like this is a strength of theirs. Once you know someone practices a certain religion, then you can latch onto it and build off of it.
Yeah. As a chaplain myself, I have lots of brothers and sisters in the chaplaincy field who work at places like hospitals, police stations, fire stations, where they have to be a little bit more vague because they're dealing with people of all different kinds of faith. And their job is to just have faith conversations with them and encouragement with them. So, but yeah, she doesn't do that. She's holds up the fist in solidarity.
Once he says it's okay, then boom, you can latch on to it.
I got you. She says, I'm not as crunchy as Paul. I think once you know what you need to work on the most in your life, you just start seeing it everywhere. Seems like Marisol might be here to help you move forward a bit. Alice and Dr. Paul is where we go next. Alice is running Paul through some brain exercises. She wants her to practice naming some of Dr. Julie's friends, including Squirrel Teeth and Never Shuts Up.
Spot on names.
Sometimes they make Paul, it's all in the name of comedy, but like sometimes he's just kind of mean.
It comes with age.
Yeah. Paul also reveals he hasn't had a halulu in weeks, and he uses the word halulu. He's growing.
He is.
And Paul asks Alice, why are you here? Because he's clearly sensing that she wants a little bit more. She's there for a different reason. So Paul tells her to meet him at the park bench so Dr. Julie doesn't know he be therapizing. Because he's not supposed to be doing that. And to bring a snack that's bad for him. If he catches a whiff of carrot, Cody, won't go well.
It won't.
We go to the delivery room where there's lots of witty chaos going on. Liz starts taking over and claiming to be baby mama's OBGYN, which she was getting everything right. She like knew everything that was going on.
Well, she's been on a medical show before.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
Yeah. Scrubs.
I learned everything I know from ER. Watched it 3 times through. I wouldn't say house because then I'd be like, it's not lupus. That's all I know.
Or it is lupus.
Jimmy talks her down, says, all right, let's settle down a little bit. Brian is still freaking out. And Jimmy and Liz warn Brian about all the crazy things. Like, you should build up to this because things are about to get crazier. They warn him of all the things he might see in the room. And they're not wrong. It's a little exaggerated. I've been in the room 5 times now. Yes, you can see all the things they said. It's possible, but usually not all of them.
Usually not. But sometimes you do, like, we're going to explain the worst case scenario and know that 99.9% of the time you don't see this.
Right, yeah. Adoption agent Stewart shows up, and he's very concerned.
Me too, Stuart.
He's there to deliver the exposition of what this scene and, frankly, the whole episode is all about. That baby mama has not signed the adoption papers. Jimmy's the voice of reason here. He says, hey, let's all relax. The baby came early. Maybe she just hasn't gotten around to it yet. And he's not wrong. Like, literally, not wrong. It's weird. These last couple episodes, I've felt, while there have been good moments, it feels like they had to rearrange some things because of Brett Goldstein finding out like that Ted Lasso was coming back. And does it feel a bit rearranged to you? Like there's things being a little too tidily wrapped up in one episode?
Not necessarily. Like this one, I felt it adds some interesting dynamics because if she goes into labor like 3 weeks early, they're not ready. And she hasn't signed the papers, like, oh no, they might not have a baby. And then even if they do get the baby, like, are they ready? Because a lot of people take for granted that everything's going to go like clockwork and we're going to have all the finishing touches and be mentally prepped for this. And now it's like, it's here.
Yeah. She shows up, Alice shows up with her not healthy snack to the park bench with Dr. Paul. And Dr. Paul gets right to it. He's like, what's going on? Well, graduation's coming up and Alice wants to invite Grandpa, but Dad's not going to love that. And Dr. Paul says, your dad's stuff is not your stuff. You want to invite him, invite him. I sounded kind of like Sam Elliott there. I'm going to apologize for that.
They're interchangeable.
There's dirt clouds on the horizon. That's my Sam Elliott. Also just as bad. Alice is bummed that she thought she was going to be done with therapy, and yet she's like, here I am, right back here. And this is when Dr. Paul is at his best. He tells her that life has a way of making sure you're never done with this. At least now you know you can make it on your own if you have to, but hear this, you never have to. Which is good. It's a good reminder that we don't have to do life alone.
We don't.
And she says, I do know I want this in my life forever and ever, as she lays her head on Dr. Paul's shoulder. And it's a sweet little moment, but Dr. Paul has a little look of concern in that moment, which we're going to find out more about later. We go back to the delivery room. Jimmy is lightening the mood and making baby mama feel better. And Brian drops not subtle hints that baby mama needs to sign the papers. Very not subtle.
I wanted to give him elbows
Yeah.
during this moment.
Yeah, but it's in character for him.
It is.
And Liz and Jimmy basically get him out of there, push him out of there. And then we meet Nurse Kimmy. Nurse Kimmy, who's interesting.
She has a sense of humor.
Yeah, or does she? Because she comes in and breaks the ice and then laughs at one of Jimmy's lame jokes.
Oh, it was a grade B dad joke.
Yeah, it was bad. And they don't get better. They get actually worse. And she keeps laughing. But we just meet her, and it's clear, like, oh, this is going to come up later. We go to Gabby and Maya, the client she offended. Maya is giving Gabby a second chance. This scene is kind of just about the witty banter back and forth, how good undistracted Gabby is at her job, actually, because like she's patched it up. They're going. She immediately nails what's up with Maya. She nails it, and she does a cool little "I sunk your battleship" funny line when she gets a text from Dr. Paul on a burner phone. Dr. Paul is a burner,
which is weird.
It's kind of funny because he's being tracked. He knows he's being tracked by his wife. Then we cut to Brian and Derek. Brian is struggling with the baby car seat while Derek just kind of sits there and smirks at him as someone who's done it many times. And Brian says, "What am I even doing this for? If she doesn't sign the papers, this is all for nothing. I canceled the tanning appointment. I look like Nosferatu, Cody." This is one of the great defining moments in a dad's journey, Derek says. I love Derek because, like, he lives in a romantic world. Everything's romanticized. And I just think that's great. He says this is one of the great defining moments in a dad's journey, along with the first time your kid gets hit in the nether regions with a baseball and you have to not laugh. Brian, of course, in this moment, he just wants to be reassured and continue to bury his head in the sand, which is kind of his thing. But Derek, the ever-wise friend, says everything's going to be okay. Just maybe not the way you want it. And then he gets to like really share some like Dr. Paul level wisdom here. He says, all we can do is believe that things are going to work out the way they're supposed to. That's what everything is going to be okay really means. We go back to the delivery room. So it's kind of like we get a scene and then delivery room, scene, delivery room. And we're kind of alternating. And Nurse Kimmy continues to laugh at Jimmy's ever worsening jokes. She's clearly smitten with him. And Liz points out the obvious. I love that she starts off with, I don't know why. But this girl clearly likes you in so many words. I'll paraphrase what she said because she's a little bit more flagrant. Kimmy is clearly not a long-term compatible partner for Jimmy, as Jimmy points out. But the show needed to show Jimmy making progress on getting back out there. And apparently Kobe Smulders is only contractually obligated to appear in a certain number of episodes. So we had to have this little interlude so we can see that it's a process.
It is, I think, for him, just because he definitely got emotionally restrictive or emotionally stunted after the passing of his wife, that maybe he feels this is like T-ball, where like, maybe we have this dialogue with someone that's clearly interested in me, even if I'm not clearly interested in her.
Yeah. As a guy who never felt in his youth like he was ever hitting off the tee as in regards to this metaphor, I would just go for hitting it off the tee a couple times. Seems like a good idea. Kimmy doesn't seem so bad. But yeah, is kind of where he ends up. And she says something to him, though, that's very wise. She says, if you want to get in the game, you got to start taking shots.
Not wrong.
We go back to the park bench. Dr. Paul calls Gabby and Alice back to the park where he never left. He's just been sitting there because Paul wants to talk about something, what seems important. And he says, Alice, unfortunately, as much as I want to be, I'm not going to be around forever to meet on this bench. I think it's time to turn you over to someone new. And Paul is, in this scene, turning a client over to Gabby, a very important client. And so Gabby is honored. She lays down the ground rules. She says, none of this candy stuff. I get paid in Taco Bell. I like Burrito Supremes, which, God bless her. She just became my favorite character.
So I liked what Paul did, but at the same time I didn't.
Yeah, does this cross some therapist line?
This definitely feels like a conflict of interest.
Because she was her mom's best friend.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they definitely had a relationship before being therapist and client.
Can I offer a quick rebuttal?
You can.
I bet you were going there because it seems like you were going to say some more, but I just want to seem super smart.
Okay.
It seems like that what Paul was doing for her was not strictly therapizing, even though he made her want her think that it was more mentoring.
Yes, that it wasn't really a therapist-client relationship. And each person is different as a therapist if you can, like, figure out a way to actually separate it. But I think that would be too close of a relationship because you're going to bring in personal things.
Yeah.
And things that the client may not want to discuss. And if you were their therapist, or if you weren't a friend or a family friend before, you wouldn't know. And so, like, it gets muddy. And with her moving off to college soon, the mentory thing's probably a better avenue.
Yeah. The big thing is I think what we're supposed to notice from this scene is Paul walks away as they start to talk, obviously pleased with himself that he could do what he just did, but also devastated at the same time. Harrison Ford does this wonderful work with his face, just walking away from that conversation. Recently, someone objected to a comment I made on social media that I thought this was one of Harrison Ford's best performances ever, and I would like to present this scene as of him walking away from that conversation as exhibit freaking A. Like, that's incredible stuff.
So it was at that moment I'm like, he's not long for this world or this show.
I don't want to talk about that yet. I can't. I think it's going to be sad for me if he dies.
Or gets really, really, really ill, and then we only get to visit him in a facility.
We go to the vending machine at the hospital where Jimmy is freaking out on it because Jimmy's a little frustrated. Liz finds him there, and Jimmy just starts pouring into her because, you know, they were kind of giving him a hard time. And he says, "You think I want to be alone for the rest of my life?" And he says, "You know what every relationship has in common, Liz? They all end. Someone leaves, someone cheats, someone dies. I don't think I can handle another bad ending." Is this pretty normal, Cody?
Oh, yeah. I called that speech coming.
Yeah.
And Leah's like, "Are you going to talk throughout this whole episode?" And I'm like, nope.
Liz, in a moment, like Liz and Derek get these moments as a couple. They get to be like kind of the moments of kind of pushing their characters forward, the characters around them forward. And she tells a story about having to literally push one of her kids down a skateboarding ramp, and then loudly says with Nurse Kimmy in the room, "Who, her? Oh, she is a babe." So Nurse Kimmy obviously hears, and he asks her out.
Sometimes you do need the friends or close loved ones that will give the little push in the back to move you forward. And having a generational gap of friendship where you have someone that's a little bit older, you have someone that's a little bit younger, you learn from the older ones, you mentor the younger ones, and I think that's a good kind of ecosystem for us as people. And there's a lot of studies on it, but having Liz and Derek, who have kids that are a little bit older than Alice and a lot older than Alice, and so like he gets to still bounce off of them.
Yeah. We go to Brian and baby mama. Brian still visibly nervous. She kind of opens the door for him to sort of question her about what's going on because she can tell something's bothering him. He resists that selfish route and just says, "I just want to make sure you're okay." And a little bit of character growth there for Brian.
About time.
I think he guards himself with his humor a lot, his real heart.
Which also is not uncommon.
Which is good because then right after that, surprise, she had signed the adoption papers. Turns out her mom got in her head. And she has this sweet moment. I don't know who that actress is, but she has this sweet moment where she starts crying and saying, "Am I a bad person?" And Brian reassures her that, of course, she isn't. Because, Cody, I assume that this scenario has happened before. And I can't fathom a woman carrying a child to birth to give to someone else because she thinks they'll love that child better, would think that they're a bad person for that.
Yeah.
Like, that's an amazingly hard, but yet kind of brave thing to do.
I know that some of her thoughts are going to be like, what will this child think when they're older? But knowing what they can offer versus what she can offer, if she was even ready to be a parent at that moment or not, and knowing that the kid's going to a good home. Yeah, it's a tough choice, but I think that it was a necessary one for her, and one that it's good that we have people out in the world that want to adopt.
Absolutely. We get a little scene with Sean and Marisol again. They're going to try dating again at the end of the day. That's what this scene does. I'm least excited about this storyline than any of them. I found it to be strange. I'm not sure where it's going.
It's the curveball that we need in this season that seems to be pretty straightforward.
Also, we're going to do the koala later.
We are not doing the koala.
Okay.
I did love that Summer was there for all of it.
Yes. Summer seems to be like the weird Swiss Army knife character where they just put her in a scene just to make it kind of awkward and funny.
She's perfect.
And her delivery as an actress is great.
Which we didn't talk about, that she was trying to set her mom up with Jeff Daniels.
Yeah. So like these great actors just kind of get to bounce off her timing, which, yeah, it's funny. She's trying to set him up and he's like, we don't have to talk. We go back to Dr. Paul and Gabby. Gabby finds Dr. Paul feeling sorry for himself. And he says, I just don't know who I am without my work. Maybe it's better to focus on how grateful you feel that you've gotten to do this for so long. Gabby redirects.
And highlights the positive
Yeah.
that he has done.
Yeah, which he's done a lot. Paul agrees that, yes, he may have been sad sacking. And Gabby says, come with me. We're going to go do something fun. And Dr. Paul can choose the rap song, and she'll let him sing all the lyrics, apparently. Thankfully,
Yes.
we do not get that scene.
We do not.
That was too much for Harrison Ford. He'd be like, you have to pay me a lot more for that. She takes him to the hospital. That's where they're going, where everyone is gathered to welcome Brian and Charlie's new baby. This is sort of the climactic scene. They're passing the baby around, and the camera pans after when Gabby asks if this person wants to hold him, and it pans to Dr. Paul, a very hesitant Dr. Paul. The symbolism is hard not to see, Cody. Old life to new. He looks a little overwhelmed for the briefest of moments. Again, Harrison Ford with some face acting. Then he gathers himself. He looks the baby in the eyes and he says, enjoy the ride, kid. And I'm like, oh, so close to shedding real tears, even just saying that. Because I thought, man, what a moment. Harrison Ford. I want to go find the dude that commented and made fun of me for saying it was a top 5 Harrison Ford performance. It might be higher than that.
Honestly, I was fearful that we were going to get a lightning crashes moment at that scene.
I'm glad we didn't.
Where, someone dies or as a baby's being born.
These people have suffered enough. Nothing but good things.
Also, I would be questioning Gabby like, so you think that going to a hospital's fun?
The song of the episode, which is playing in this scene, is a song called Speyside by Bon Iver. Are you a Bon Iver fan?
You betcha.
Oh, okay. Do you know about this song?
I've heard it before. It's not on my playlist, but after listening or after watching this episode, I'm like, should I give it another chance?
Maybe you should. Apparently, it's an apology song. So Speyside is written out of guilt or reflection. Justin Vernon, who I assume is the lead singer.
Yes.
He has described it as a spilling out as an apology to people he has loved and hurt, which sort of matches some themes going on in this episode, which is basically an episode about repair. We got dads showing up late. We got relationships getting restarted and reframed. We've got people trying to move forward without pretending the past didn't happen. And so there's this, kind of synergy as usual with the song they've chosen. And it plays at the end over the group welcoming the newborn while Paul's holding the baby. And it's a tender scene that underlines Paul's mortality and just the shifting of roles that's happening. That life just keeps moving on. And I kind of like that. I kind of like the symbolism of how this song was written for, which is the lead singer, Justin Vernon, as an apology to people he's loved and hurt, because that's the thing. You're going to hurt the people you love because you're going to be around them for as much as you can. And we are inevitably going to hurt people because we're broken. We can't help it.
We are.
And so I just thought this was a great song. I don't listen to Bon Iver much, but I thought the song at the end was perfect. It was wonderful.
Dude has a cool voice.
He does. He does has a very, well, first of all, like if you could pick an all-star team of indie music, like you probably would have Bon Iver on it, right?
Yeah.
The moment that grew them, it's definitely got to be Paul. That Paul in the moment where he's walking away from Gabby and Alice, where he's just kind of handed Alice over to Gabby. For most of this season, Paul has been kind of fighting the reality he's in. He's sarcastic. He's using avoidance. He's pretending he's fine. And every time he's reminded of his condition, of his Parkinson's, with, the schedule or the over supervision, the check-ins, you could tell it feels like an insult to his character. But this is not really about his health per se. What's really bothering him is he's losing control. And that's frightening to him. To anyone that's exercised control throughout their life and has been able to do that, usually a man, then this is a frightening thing for them. So for him to give up mentoring Alice is huge for him. He's not totally okay with it. But that's what makes this growth so awesome, because it's courageous, Cody.
It is.
All right, this episode, D-Day, how many peanut M&Ms out of 10 are you giving this episode, Cody?
7.5 to 8.
Yeah.
It's an average episode of Shrinking.
That sounds about right. I've been about a point lower than you on the episode so far, because I thought 6.5, where I think it's just above average for me. I think it's good, but not great. And I feel like it's suffering ever so slightly from jumbled, them having to move some things around from maybe what their original plan was. Because I'm pretty sure the way the timeline works out is they're in the middle of filming when Brett gets called back to do Ted Lasso season 4.
Jason Sudeikis.
I mean, I'm here for it because I love Ted Lasso. But all right, tell us what you thought of this episode and anything we talked about. And make sure and subscribe. Follow us for more recaps here on Watch Alongs. And, of course, the big pod that drops on Friday. We'll see you next week.